welcome to episode 93 of BigRedBarel Geek Speak, a place for all your nerdy needs on BigRedBarel.com. My name is Alex, I'm the host for this episode. I'm also self-appointed Baroness of Butts, that means I like butts or something, And with me is, as always, she has some... Oh my god, I was gonna come up with some sexual line relating to Godzilla, and my mind completely blanked out, so that just went all completely wrong.
Love
but
it.
It's Jauntly Jubilant Juggernaut of Joe.
Hello.
Hello.
Now I'm thinking about Godzilla. See? I was fine, and then you said it, and now I'm ruined forever.
Oh, that was my evil plan all along.
God damn it.
Let me stroke my white, fluffy cat.
Oh.
And just as I say it, a dog is barking outside. Welcome, dog. Welcome to Geek Speak. So I'm not gonna come up with a really weird introduction for Di. I'm just gonna say that he's dangerously and very darling and Diarmuid.
Hello there.
Hi, Di.
I'm going to melt. I'm literally going to melt.
We're so sorry. We so appreciate your sacrifice for this silly podcast that we're doing.
Now you just know what everyone else feels like when they listen to your delicious voice.
Okay, I will take that. I will take it.
Nice one,
I
Joe.
know. I'm so good.
Okay, so we're gonna begin this episode 93 with our usual segment of Time Waster of the Week. And guess what? We are gonna talk about, a big and fun time waster, and it's E3 2017, because that happened. All the big developers and publishers came together into conference somewhere in America, and they presented lots of conferences, and some other people also got to play a lot of games if they were in America. But we aren't, so we just basically watched all the conferences. If you want all the juicy details, there is an absolutely massive, delicious episode of BigRedBarel UK already out. There'll be a link in the description for this episode, where we basically take every conference and dissect it in pretty detailed. I mean, we go pretty much over every single game that is there. And there's lots of different voices. There your BigRedBarel UK host, Tim and Coleman. There's, all of us are there. There's Bleezy there, Ryan, Kev. So yeah, it's deliciousness all around. And it's over 2 hours long. And it's crazy busy. But what I thought we were going to do for our Time Waste of the Week, we're just going to go over some of our favorites. Now, having a little bit of a hindsight of the show and having digested all the information and all that delicious... I keep saying delicious this episode a lot.
Are you hungry by any chance?
I don't know. I'm hungry. What is wrong with the world? Anyway, I came up with a couple of really silly categories, which we're gonna go over with, and we're gonna start with the best game of the show. We're gonna name one game, and then we're gonna have a runner-up. Now, it's really tough, because for runner-up, I could have put like 5 or 6 games, and I had to choose. So, yeah, this was tough. Anyway, Di, let's start with you.
Okay. For me, my game of the show was probably the one true surprise of the show for me. Like, I was not expecting this. So during the Sony press conference, about halfway through, this trailer starts, and immediately I recognize the location, and I'm like, they're not gonna do it, are they? It's basically the same reaction I had when they announced Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then I saw Blue Point's name appear. Blue Point Games made some incredible ports for the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. And then Shadow of the Colossus starts, and it is one of my favourite games from that generation. I've bought it about 3 times already on the original console, the remake, and I'm gonna keep bloody buying it as long as they keep putting it out. It looks incredible. Since the conference, they've actually kind of confirmed that it's a remake, like they're redoing everything. They want to make it seem like a PlayStation 4 release rather than just upscaling pre-existing stuff.
So they're gonna redo the controls, right?
Yes, they're gonna tweak the controls. So, they're gonna make them much better.
I'm sorry.
Unfortunately for Joe, they're not gonna get rid of the whole killing of the Colossi, I think. There should be a pacifist run where you just run up to them and you just wave and then you
just
run
go,
off.
hello, and then wave. That's why I never finished it. I did like the first 2 or something, and then I was like, I don't want to kill them anymore, and then I just stopped playing it.
No, it's a really good game, and I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, that was my game of the show.
Okay, let's go to your runner-up, which incidentally was my game of the show, but not surprisingly.
I'm just going to mention it briefly because I know you want to talk about it. Basically, Anthem at the end of number one, at the end of the EA conference, which was like 10 seconds, and then when they actually showed the proper game at the end of the Microsoft conference, it was incredibly impressive, and it looks like BioWare's A-Team. And I'm looking forward to what they can do with this. I'm going to leave you talk about it more, but yeah, Anthem looks incredible.
If you kind of leave on BioWare forums a lot, then you would have known this, but they were working on this game for a very, very long while, and they were concept screenshots since like E3 2013, and I think they started working it in 2012. Sometime back then. For me, why I have high hopes about it is not only it's based in Edmonton, but I very closely followed what happened to all the writing team that did Dragon Age Inquisition. The way the BioWare games work, and I assume a lot of other game studios work, their writing team, just before their release, they're like really buff up. And after their release, they kind of almost sent everyone away to work on different projects, and they leave just, in terms of writing, just a couple of writers to do some DLC storyline and so on. And then, after even that is done and they release the final DLC, they only leave pretty much like a lead writer and one or two other writers to work on the concepts for the new game, main story path, and so on. So when I was kind of looking up at what all my favorite writers on Dragon Age were doing, they were all going into the secret IP that they weren't even talking about. And some of the writers that did some of my favorite characters in Dragon Age Inquisition. So I really have high hopes up, at least in terms of story and in terms of writing, because the people that are working on this project wrote really interesting stuff before. So that is really good. Which, incidentally, when they were talking about Mass Effect Andromeda, and I was looking at their writing team, I was like, oh, that writing team did my least favorite Dragon Age DLC. No! But yeah, well, it's really not unfair because that writer also did like the best part of Mass Effect Andromeda in my opinion. So anyway, yeah, so I'm really excited. We all know I bleed BioWare. It's not a hard prediction that I'm super looking forward to that game. I do hope that this is the game where they will finally nail the balance between the open world and story, because there's not been a single game that did that successfully or to the level that I wanted. I would say Horizon Zero Dawn came the closest to it, actually. And that is because Horizon Zero Dawn is actually quite a small open world game if you think about it. It's not that huge. There isn't a lot of stuff going on, and Anthem promises to be much bigger, at least from what they were talking about the game afterwards. So I have high hopes up. I'm also fairly cautious. It's said to be coming spring next year, which is good. Gives them a little bit of time. It looks absolutely awesome. Robots and mechs and javelins and all the travels, and the idea that you can customize your javelin suits to pretty much anything you want and play with friends. And the funny thing is that people have been asking BioWare whether they ever create a game where someone can play co-op through a story mode, and they're like, yeah, absolutely, you can do that. And I guess all the time in secret they were actually working on that kind of game exactly and just couldn't say it to anyone. So yeah, Anthem, all the hots for Anthem for me, unsurprisingly. Joe, what's your game of the show?
My game of the show was a bit of a surprise, and not what I was aware, obviously, of this game because it had been announced a while ago, but it wasn't something that I would expect to have at the top of my list. But it's Spider-Man. The demo that they showed just absolutely blew my mind. It just looked so much fun, so vibrant and colourful and lively, and the action looked really good, and it looked like it would feel fun to swing through the city as Spider-Man, just like on the PS2 game, I think it was Spider-Man 2, that was really good and just felt really good to play. This kind of looked like it would feel the same. And yeah, so I'm super psyched for that. Obviously the team making it did Ratchet and Clank, right?
Mm-hmm. They also did Sunset Overdrive on the Xbox.
Yeah, see, those games are just fantastic. Yeah. So I have high hopes for this, and yeah, it looked absolutely beautiful. So yes, Spider-Man, excited.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that when we were talking about Sony conference on BigRedBarel UK podcast, but Spider-Man is not necessarily the game that I would play or would choose to play. It's not exactly my type, but when I was looking at it and looking at the gameplay, it looks awesome. It feels like it played awesome. It was just like such a high quality quality
Yeah.
of what they showed that you can't help but be excited. Even if I'm not sure I will actually play it, I can't help but be excited for people who will be playing it eventually.
Yeah, I think it looks amazing, so I'm very excited for that one.
Well, I'm slightly surprised, Joe, that your runner-up is not exactly like my runner-up.
Well, yeah, no, it nearly was, but then I thought, as you're going to talk about it anyway, then I'll mention something different. But yeah, my runner-up was this game that none of us kind of really knew much about. It was a bit of a surprise. Was Skull and Bones from Ubisoft. Now, apparently it's the Black Flag Assassin's Creed team who have been working on this a little bit. Basically, the people that made the boat bits.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And it's essentially the sailing parts of Black Flag, but in a full game of its own. So you're a pirate. And that was just awesome in Black Flag. I mean, Black Flag is easily one of the best Assassin's Creed games, if not the best. Although, personally, I think Assassin's Creed 2 is the best. But this just looked awesome. And it was a really good demo. It showed, like, the ship combat and the water just looked beautiful. And then there was a big kraken at the end in the sea. And I was just like, yes, I'm totally on board. I want to be a pirate. And for me, even though I think Sea of Thieves, which Microsoft showed, looks awesome as well, Skull and Bones looks a little bit more my style, and I think I'll probably enjoy that more. But yeah, so I was super psyched for that and can't wait to be a pirate again.
Yeah, I think Sea of Thieves looks more like mayhem on boats.
Yeah.
You can be really working together, or you can be doing whatever you want and just goofing around. Whereas Skull and Bones seems like a more directed multiplayer adventure.
Yeah.
Where you choose your role and that's what you're doing, and you're trying to help your overall team to win that naval fight against the opponents. So in that case, it's obviously a bit more serious in tone anyway. But yeah, no, it looks fantastic.
And I didn't see a kraken in Sea of Thieves.
No, just sharks.
Yeah, Kraken is cool. So yeah, that looks great. So I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah, no, that was one of the nicest surprises of the Ubisoft conference. Yeah,
but your runner-up, Alex, is definitely my second runner-up. So
yeah, it's your French boyfriend.
My French boyfriend's game.
It's Detroit Become Human. I've not played any of the games by your French boyfriend.
Oh, you really should.
I really should, and it's on my long list to play, and I think I'm absolutely gonna love it because there's one thing that there's two things I absolutely love in all the video games I play. I love story, and I love branching storylines and choices. This is my catnip. This is my drug. Pretty much about 80% of all the games I play, these are this kind of games. So I'm really looking forward to it. It looks absolutely fantastic.
It really does.
I really hope the choices will matter at the end, but from what I understand, the endings are different in his games usually. They're not just variations of
Well, that's
things.
the thing. That I was listening to a kind of like a developer interview or whatever about this game. And similar to Heavy Rain, it's possible, because there's multiple characters you're going to play as, it's possible for you to end a story arc. It's possible for you to die, and the game continues. You just won't get all of the meat of that particular story arc. So the amount of endings is going to be, I think, gargantuan.
It must be, yeah. Crikey, if there's a trophy for getting all the endings like there was with Heavy Rain, that's going to blow my mind. I did the platinum for Heavy Rain, and obviously part of that was to get all of the endings. So, it took some time. But yeah, definitely, if Detroit is anything like that in terms of having all these different endings, it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me is that there isn't really a date for it, and it's been kind of floating around for a while now, so I'm not really sure where it is, because from what I remember from the last E3 trailer demo or whatever they were showing, it looked very different actually.
I think at the last trailer that I remember seeing at PlayStation Experience, I think it was, they just showed the Kara side of the story basically, and there's going to obviously be all these different playable characters, and I think they seem to in this E3 trailer show a bit more of the world and the story and how you'll actually exist in it. So yeah, they definitely showed a bit more, and it did seem quite different than what we'd seen before. But yeah, I'm super intrigued by this game. I think it will be a day one purchase for me anyway because it's my French boyfriend. But it looks great.
Yeah, no, it looks super good. Okay, now we come to a weird segment that I've named very aptly and very succinctly, and it's very like a good punchline. No, it's not. Out of all the games that we have been shown, what is our next purchase? So So you guys go ahead first, since you both are going to be buying the same thing.
Well, for me, I'm sure it's probably the same for Joe as well, but you can pipe up and tell me I'm absolutely wrong about this. But this choice was more out of the fact that it just happens to arrive sooner than most of the other stuff that's shown.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the amount of games that I saw at E3 this year that I'm getting day one is huge. And it just so happens that this is one of the first to arrive, and that's why it's the next one I'm going to buy. But it's Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. Based on everything they've said about this game, obviously I'm a huge Naughty Dog fan. I loved Uncharted 4. This is more of that, with two characters that I really think are really, really cool. That's Chloe and Nadine. And I'm looking forward to it purely because this is not only standalone, they've also said that it's almost like an Uncharted sequel, 10 hours long, supposedly. And it's its own kind of story that's cut off from Nathan Drake, so they can do whatever they want with that story. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing what they actually bring to it, because their DLC for The Last of Us, I loved how they tinkered with the gameplay. Like, one of the things that they brought into it, not to spoil anything for Left Behind, was they finally allowed you to kind of interact against the infected and the humans at the same time. You know, they didn't do that in the main game. I want to see what kind of gameplay twists they bring to The Lost Legacy, because I really think it could be very interesting.
Yes, definitely. I agree. And also, I'm really excited to see more of Chloe, because she was obviously a great standout character in Uncharted 2. We've not seen her in any of the games since, so it will be really good to sort of play as her and find out a bit more about her. And also the setting, like, it's going to be set in India, which is important for her heritage. And so that's going to be really exciting. We know it's going to look beautiful, it'll play great, and it'll be really, really fun. So yes, this is definitely my next purchase for sure.
Yeah. My next purchase is Life is Strange prequel, Before the Storm. I was a bit late to Life is Strange, but I ended up really enjoying it, and it's not a game without its faults, and actually some of my problems with the game is not kind of storyline, but more gameplay-wise, and I thought the choice at the end was too much of a binary choice.
It was very arbitrary, yeah.
Yeah,
everything else previous didn't really make any difference whatsoever.
Yeah. I don't feel like I can judge those choices so much, because I absolutely love, say, Bioware games, where a lot of the endings are pretty much the same, but what happens to the characters in the game that matters.
Yeah.
But even Life is Strange felt like that didn't matter. Your other choices with the other characters didn't matter, because if I tell you why I say because, I would have to spoil the game for you, which I'm not gonna do, so let's just leave it at that. But I'm really looking forward to this little prequel. I'm not sure prequel is exactly the story that I wanted to be playing through. I'll be honest with you. I feel a bit uncertain about that. I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. The only other kind of disappointment that happened afterwards is that we learned that Ashley Birch won't be voicing our main protagonist, our blue-haired awesomeness, who is hella awesome. Because when this all was happening, they had voice actor strike, so she wasn't voicing her, which is really a bit of a shame, because she was absolutely excellent. So that's a bit sad, but I'm still looking forward to it. I think it's just 3 episodes, so it's tiny, but that is good. That is good. That means, you can get the story pretty much straight away. I'm not too sure if this is exactly day one, or I will wait until all the 3 episodes come out. I'm annoyed about that, but this is gonna be my next purchase anyway.
It's a good choice.
Okay, so moving on, let's discuss which was our favorite conference. I'll start with Joe this time.
Yeah, so mine's a tie, because I'm awkward like that. My 2 favourite conferences were Ubisoft and Sony. Obviously, I'm a big PlayStation fan. I make no apologies for that. They're definitely my favourite. And I really enjoyed the games that they showed in their conference. While it wasn't a vintage Sony conference, it was still full of things that I was excited to see and see more of. And the same of Ubisoft. They had some cool surprises, like the aforementioned pirate game Skull and Bones. And it was just generally a nice, fun conference. It zipped along at a good pace. There wasn't as much awkwardness as there was in some of the other conferences, who shall remain nameless. Yeah, so I enjoyed those 2 the most, definitely.
I have to say, in behalf of Ubisoft, one of the reasons why I'm naming it my best conference is because I'm liking that they're slightly moving away from the typical Tom Clancy-ish games that they've shown. So last year, one of my biggest problems with the games they were showing, which was, a lot of Division, a lot of Wasteland, or whatever that game was called. Sorry.
Wildlands.
Really can't remember. Yeah, Wildlands.
Really
yeah.
memorable. Really memorable.
Might as well be called Wastelands as far as I'm concerned. You know, they all look like samey, boring, greedy, grey shooters that were really unexciting to play, that look the same. And, you know, they still kind of have that in Far Cry 5, even though, you know, that has its own spins and actually looks pretty well, in my opinion. But I also like that they, with Skull and Bones, they're introducing a new kind of multiplayer experience. And then we're getting Assassin's Creed back, which of course we are. This wasn't a surprise, but still I like the setting. It's Assassin's Creed, I'm gonna buy it.
Speaking of Assassin's Creed,
Yes.
one thing that for me was slightly negative of the Ubisoft conference, and this is obviously, there must be a lot of various reasons for this, but they hardly showed any of their own game in their conference, and apparently this is due to the fact that they have licensing agreements with Microsoft. So Microsoft were able to show more of Assassin's Creed Origins than Ubisoft were. And I find this so puzzling and strange, and something's gone a bit awry here, where the developer of the game can't show their own game.
Well, think about what EA have done. I think Microsoft has just made deals with everyone this conference.
Yeah, exactly. So EA was the same. They could only show like 10 seconds of Anthem at the end. And you're like, what?
But to me, in EA, that also shows me that they don't have enough confidence in their conference.
Yeah.
Because this is a really big thing. Like, EA conference, I didn't do the worst conferences of E3 because I couldn't be bothered
I think we'd
to
all
talk
say
about that.
EA.
That would win.
Yeah, I think that would absolutely win. It was just boring. I think even if you liked sports, it was boring, frankly. And the fact that it had a couple of exciting things, and one of the most exciting things they actually had was Anthem, and they gave it away to Microsoft. So basically, on their conference, was the only thing exciting was their Origins little indie game that looked really brilliant and really nice. And other than that, it was complete fuff and snooze fest. And I don't know why they've done that, but it just shows they were like, well, I'm not sure a lot of people are going to be watching our conference, so this is a big reveal. Maybe we might as well give it to Microsoft, or at least that's how it looks to me.
They went with the money. I can imagine Microsoft threw around quite a bit of money this time around and sort of said, look, we're going to pay you this much because we want the exclusive marketing for Assassin's Creed or whatever. But as part of that, we want to give it more priority in our press conference, so you can't show it as much in yours. You know, it seems like that's kind of what's happened, but it just seemed kind of ridiculous in Ubisoft, where the only gameplay footage of Assassin's Creed that we saw was looking over a shoulder of a guy playing it on a laptop, and you couldn't see anything on the screen, and it just seemed really odd. I was like, this is wrong. Something's gone wrong here, where the developer can't really show their own game.
That was silly, but also at the same time, I don't think they needed to show anything. Like, I think they had 30-minute gameplay after the conference that you could watch.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
That people could stay on for, but I think it's like with Just Dance. It was there for a couple of seconds and it went away, because they know that people that buy Just Dance will buy Just Dance.
Oh god, I forgot about that. They lose points for that. Just Dance.
And people who always buy Assassin's Creed, they know what Assassin's Creed is about. All they really need to know is what setting it is, and to know if they're excited for it or not. So they don't really need to see anything else. And and an eagle, maybe. Eagle is a bonus. That eagle was cute. I want
that eagle was cool.
Eagle. Yep. Yeah. Okay, Di, what was your favorite conference?
We seem to be kind of tilting all towards the same direction, but Joe liked Ubisoft, you liked Ubisoft. I also liked Ubisoft, but I just smidgenly liked Sony more. Mostly because, for me, press conferences come down to kind of three headings. As in, what I think is going to be a really good E3 press conference comes down to the presentation, the games on show, and surprises. To be honest with you, for me, the only area where Sony fell down this year was in the surprises front. They had one big one, which actually made my game of the show, so that tells you how big of a deal that was for me anyway. It was Shadow of the Colossus, and that was it. That in terms of surprises, everything else they'd shown previously, or at least the VR titles that they showed that were new, were kind of smaller and not kind of big heavy hitters. But in terms of presentation, Sony still, again, they basically followed the same format as last year and knocked it out of the park. They got a guy out on stage for about 90 seconds. He said some stuff, and that was it. And then he came out at the end and just said some goodbyes, and that's it. And the rest of it was just...
Yeah, that was
exactly.
good.
The rest of it was just games. And what I liked about it as well was, it wasn't just games, it was gameplay for most of them. Like, they had an entire 10 minutes of Gone Home, or not Gone Home, Days Gone. And it was, it was really impressive. Like, last year, the gameplay bit they did for that felt like, and I think they've come out and said since, that it wasn't actually meant to be there. It was some last minute shuffling that they had to do, and that's why that kind of fitted in at the end. So I'm not sure if it was fully ready to show.
I don't know, that still felt very impressive, like that whole AI zombie AI that I felt. I went away kind of really impressed with that game even last year.
I heard rumours that last year it was because of Red Dead. They were meant to be able to show Red Dead 2 at the end, and that got pulled last minute, and that's why Days Gone went in there.
Exactly. I heard something similar, and for me, the Days Gone trailer from last year was very good and impressive technically, but it was basically a guy running away from a horde for about 10 minutes. And it was very good, but I wanted them to show more of the world, and this time they did. And I was really impressed with that trailer. They showed more God of War. They gave us a bit more of what the story is going to be about. And again, they showed off not only that, they showed off some gameplay, they showed off some spectacle. There's some big games that they announced as well, or that they brought in. The VR section probably slowed it down, but even so, I have VR, so I was interested in seeing what games are coming out for it.
Yeah.
And there was multiple things like that, and I just thought that the entire show was just really impressive. It was games I'm interested in, and that's why it makes my favourite conference. It wasn't a patch on last year's, but still I like the fact that outside of Detroit, they gave most of their games at least speculative dates of next year, so we know we're going to get them. And before the show, they had a pre-show where they had something like 4 exclusives that for some reason they didn't put into the main one.
Yeah, if you missed pre-show, you missed a lot of stuff, actually.
It's kind of weird, because like they had Knack 2, I know it's Knack, but still, it's a first-party exclusive.
Apparently it's improved a lot.
They had Gran Turismo Sport, one of their biggest franchises, and all of this stuff was all in the pre-show. So I was kind of, before the show, kind of thinking, well, what they're going to show must be gold. And a lot of it was, but it was a bit condensed. And they've announced since then that there were game announcements that they pulled to keep them for later in the year. So I'm guessing there's going to be another
PlayStation experience.
That or Gamescom, because they're saying that they might attend this year as well. So I'm still really looking forward to what they're going to show. But in terms of the conference, I thought they nailed it in terms of the games and the presentation. Just the surprises I could have done with a few more.
Well, if there's one thing to take away from the conference is that I think the people who organize it, all the various developers and publishers and so on, should really just put the nice trailers in. Don't pad it with fluff about how gaming is great and how gamers are great. We don't really care about that. Don't bring any YouTubers. We don't really care about YouTubers.
Don't wheel a car out on stage. Microsoft, I'm talking to you. Don't do it again. It's boring.
Yeah, not very exciting. Look, we've all come there to see what is happening to the gaming scene in the next year or so. That's all we really want to do. We don't really want you to talk at us. That can happen in all interviews post the conferences and so on, for those who really want to see that. We don't really get into nitty-gritty details of what XOXO Love Gossip Girl is made of. We can get that off Digital Foundry. It's so fine. What we want is trailers, the new goodness, surprises, gameplay, release dates. That's it.
Entertain us. Entertain us.
We're a fickle bunch.
We are. It is true. They say we're entitled. I would agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so with E3 out of the way, let's get on to the topics of the show. And I will start with episode 2 of Telltale's Guardians of the Galaxy, called Under Pressure. Now, guys, I'm really sorry. I really trying to like this Telltale series. I really am, and I'm not at all. And this episode, they had prime opportunity. Frida Wolf, one of my favorite, newly favorite voice actress. She was Sarah Ryder in Mass Effect Andromeda. She's an awesome person all around. She was one of the voices in the game. I don't really want to say the character, because that might spoil if you're planning to play the game. But she was there. She was awesome, and even that, I am really struggling to get through this new series. I think I figure out what it is. It feels really slow. Like, everything the characters do feels really slow. They walk slowly, they do everything slowly. When they react, they do this slowly. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I have to choose some options for their dialogue. That's not that. But kind of feels like it's dragging on, and the humor doesn't hit me. A lot of annoys me. I really don't like how the Star-Lord looks like and how he sounds like. It's just... That's where the problem is. Star-Lord is Chris Pratt, and no one can do Chris Pratt except for Chris Pratt, and that's where you fail almost immediately, because Nolan North, I think it's Nolan North. Nolan North can do Bradley Cooper's Rocket pretty well, darn well, like really well, that you almost think it's Bradley Cooper. But so far, no one has been able to do Chris Pratt, and the character doesn't look like Chris Pratt, the character doesn't sound like Chris Pratt, it just feels all disjointed, and so his jokes don't land, his humor doesn't land, nothing lands. I'm finally on board where the story is going, so that's, I guess, is a plus for the series. But other than that, I'm trying my best, and I'm just not getting along with it.
That's disappointing to hear, because it
sounds like a bore.
This was one of the Telltale series that I was interested in purely because I know the property, obviously, from other things. But it was one of those series that I was like, okay, I'll wait until the end of the series, get it all kind of on the cheap, and play through it, and that should be good. But like, obviously, yourself, you're having some issues with it. Other people I've talked to who've played it are saying similar things, so it's kind of disappointing. I'm hoping they pick it up for the next few episodes, and hopefully they can turn it around, but yeah, it's very disappointing.
I mean, I don't know, it could be really me, because Coleman did really like the first episode, where I didn't. So maybe it's just somehow it just didn't grab me for some reason. It just didn't land with me, and it landed with him, for which, you know, it's great. He's played it. He's probably played it several times, because I was watching him play it, and he by accidentally started on his like a-hole playthrough, basically, where he tried to pick up everyone. He was like, no, I need to replay that episode now. So he seems to be enjoying it. I don't know what he thought on episode 2, but he did really like episode 1, where I don't like any of them, to be honest. Yeah, it is disappointing, but I just think it's hard. I just think it's really hard for them to hit that game on the, you know, with the nail on the head. Guys, I'm really sorry, it's hot. I can't words right today. But because a lot of the Guardians of the Galaxy, it is about characters. And it is about people who play those characters. Because I think they are such a great fit, all of them together. And because they're such a great fit, they are the Guardians of the Galaxy that are always in my head, they're always in front of my eyes. And when you don't do them justice, or you don't do them in enough of a different way, because in this Telltale's Guardians of the Galaxy, they did Gamora very differently, and I'm actually okay with that. But, you know, everything else, some of them went one way or another way, or ended up kind of in the middle, very awkwardly. And that shows, and I guess that's why I don't really gel with the series so much, and hopefully it's just me, hopefully other people are enjoying it, but unfortunately, I am not so much. I will continue playing it. I've been given a season pass, so...
Oh, you might as well then.
I'm disclosing that this has been given to me so I can talk about it on the podcast. So I will talk about it on the podcast, and I will play for all the episodes, and maybe Coleman will give you the positive, optimistic, happy side, and I will be the depressing one on this other end, for which I apologize. Okay, now we're going in the land of movies. One of them is probably atrocious, or that's what I'm going to believe until I die, and another one I know nothing about, so tell me about it, Diarmuid.
One of the shows that you guys did before Christmas was a kind of a wrap-up show and you asked the audience, who I was part of at the time, what their kind of favourite things of the year was. And I remember one of the categories you had added in was favourite anime. And I hadn't watched any major anime that year. But one of the things I mentioned was that I was really looking forward to something. So a film called Your Name had released that year. And I just had not gotten around to actually watching it. And I finally did in the last week. And it is incredible. So it's a film, an animated Japanese film, from a guy named Makoto Shinkai. Now, I'm probably completely ruining his name right there. But the reason I kind of looked out for this was not only was it incredibly reviewed incredibly, it is also done incredibly well. So it is currently the highest grossing anime film in Japan, beating even Spirited Away from Studio Ghibli. So that will give you an idea of how popular it is. And this is from a guy, as I said, the director. He previously did a film that I really liked, which is 5 centimeters per second. And to kind of give you a brief rundown of the story, it's basically a body swap comedy romance thing between two kind of high school students. So there's Mitsuha, who's a high school girl living in the kind of the country of Japan. And then there's, what was his name again? Taki, who's a kind of a city boy, and they swap bodies for a kind of a really weird reason. It's a Japanese film, okay, guys? Just, go with it. They swap bodies for a really weird reason. And they basically... It's almost like when they wake up, it's like they're waking up from a dream, so they keep kind of forgetting details and forgetting about that kind of stuff. And so they're trying to find out who each other are and help each other in their lives, because when they swap over for like an entire day, and they kind of run into the various issues that each of them has. So it's really funny, as I mentioned. The story is told really well. It is stunning looking. For a Japanese anime, that is quite impressive because it just looks incredible when it's animated. Like the quality is beyond anything that you've probably seen. It's really well told. The story is it doesn't run on for very long. It's quite a short film, but the story puts a lot in there, and they kind of go through various dramas in their life. And as I said, it's kind of a romance as well, and it does a really good job of kind of escalating towards the end. And at the end, I'm not going to say I teared up. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say that it was quite warm around me, right? It was quite warm and...
bit dusty.
A bit dusty as well, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Someone was chopping onions right next to you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
someone downstairs, I was shouting down at them saying you shouldn't be doing that. Anyway, if you get a chance to see this, I would highly suggest you do. I already have the Blu-ray ordered on Amazon. I'm really looking forward to it. Any of you guys are welcome to borrow it as soon as it arrives.
Yes, please.
It is incredible. And yeah, it's well worth seeking out if you get a chance.
Yeah, I'm looking at some screenshots and oh my god, does it look beautiful.
And in motion, it looks even better.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. It's really funny. It's endearing. The characters feel real. And it's one of those things. I love Japanese culture, and I like how it mixes city life from Taki's point of view with Mitsuha's kind of view of this mountainous region in Japan, and her village is kind of on the side of that, and how it kind of it shows both parts of their lives. And there's this event that happens in the film that kind of ties it all together, and it just works. It is incredibly good. I can't wait to watch it again. And as I said, yeah, I'm looking forward to the Blu-ray release. I'm looking forward to seeing some making of stuff, because the artistry behind it is just incredible.
Can I just say, I'm really happy that you're recommending this, because I haven't been watching any of Japanese animation or just anime, whether that's, short TV series or long films in a while. But that's mainly because when I was younger, I would digest pretty much everything. But now I'm kind of just looking for good stuff. And the Japanese stuff, you have your really wacky, amazing stuff. Then you have, things that are just crazy, but not in a nice way. Then there are just things that are just about boobs. And then you have like real gems, like real good anime. But just by looking at it or reading descriptions, sometimes it's really hard to distinguish one from another. I'm actually really looking forward to it, because I do want the suggestions of like a really true good stuff, like the gems of the anime Japanese animation, because I miss watching it so much, because I used to watch so much of it, and now I don't think I have enough patience for some type of those kind of series.
Just to mention as well, if you do end up watching this and you do enjoy it, which I think is very likely, do go back and look for the guy's other films, specifically 5 centimeters per second, because it's a similar sort of idea, but it is incredibly well made as well. Now, if you read up on the director, like, he'll make you ashamed of the lack of work that you do. He's a director, a writer, a producer, animator, editor, cinematographer, voice actor, manga artist, graphic designer. The amount of stuff he does, and like, he's in his 40s. The amount of stuff that he's done is just incredible. And I'm kind of like, I've already started looking to see if I can find his other works and get them in some fashion so I can watch them, because it's just incredible the amount of stuff he's done. And he's like a fan of Miyazaki's work, and it kind of shows like the care he takes. It's just incredible. Your Name is well worth seeking out.
Okay, awesome. It is on my list. Now, on to the thing that is definitely not on my list.
Yeah, I'm going to bring us down now. You remember the Brendan Fraser Mummy films, right?
I enjoyed them
so much. Okay, the first two. The first two.
Third one is garbage.
As soon as Rachel Weisz went away, it has become garbage. But I love those two so much. I know they're silly. I know they sometimes don't make sense.
That was the point. Totally. So you remember like how much fun they were and how exciting. The adventure was really cool, and they had a sense of humour, and they still had some scary moments, and they were exciting. Yeah? Well, the new Mummy is none of that.
Awesome.
Basically, yeah, so we have a new Mummy film because Universal, in their great wisdom, have decided they're doing this dark universe thing where they're trying to build a whole new cinematic universe of all the classic movie monsters that they own the rights to. So the Mummy, Frankenstein, Jekyll and Hyde, Dracula, all this kind of stuff, right?
Oh no, don't ruin Dracula, please.
I know. It's depressing. It stars Tom Cruise in this new one, and it's meant to kickstart this whole cinematic universe. And yeah, it's pretty bad, guys. So
not surprised.
It has its moments where it's not a complete out and out failure, but God, it's dreary and grim and ugh. So I'm not the hugest Tom Cruise fan anyway. I find that sometimes he can just be so smarmy. He turns me right off. But he's even worse in this film in that his character is just so arrogant and cocky and selfish and just generally irritating and also pretty stupid. It's just annoying throughout the whole film. So essentially he is like this US military officer who sells ancient artifacts on the black market. He discovers with a friend of his who's like the comic relief I think he's meant to be, but it's not really funny. It discovers the burial site of an ancient Egyptian priestess, goddess, Amunet. And she's a bit of a bad sort in that she made a deal with the ancient Egyptian god Set for power, and so she's essentially evil and she's the mummy, right?
As far as I understand, that's also not located in Egypt. This is located in Afghanistan, was it, or Iraq?
In Mesopotamia, which is modern day Iraq.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it was in Egypt, but for some reason, because obviously the film needed it to be in a war zone, they have buried her in what is now Iraq.
Okay.
I don't know. They come up with some sort of tenuous reason in that we wanted her as far away from Egypt as possible. I don't know. But yeah, so they discover her, then they take her back to London because why not? And so she obviously her evil powers bring down the plane, which is
that where Tom Cruise does a little scream?
It's great. I don't know if people remember that I think it was last year they released an IMAX trailer for this by mistake that wasn't finished, and basically it only had half of the audio on it. So there were whole sections of this trailer where all you could hear was some of the very early sound effects. So there's one shot when the plane is going down and you could just hear little Tom Cruise doing this most peculiar scream. You guys, we need to put it in the show notes or something, a link to this trailer because it's just hilarious.
If I find it and I can rip the scream of the YouTube trailer, I will absolutely do this.
It's still there. It's if you Google for the IMAX Mummy trailer, no audio, you'll find it for sure. But they so throughout that whole scene, even though they've re-edited it so he doesn't scream in the same way in the film, they've tried to make him sound more manly, I think. But, even so, I was just absolutely laughing my head off through that whole scene because I couldn't help but remember. So anyway, then through one reason or another, they all end up in London. Russell Crowe is in it.
Oh, Russell, why?
It's for the money because he really is pretty terrible in this film, I think. And Russell Crowe's a good actor when he wants to be, but in this he's just, pretty abysmal. Proper over-the-top nonsense. And it's not much of a spoiler to say that he is playing Dr. Jekyll.
Oh, by the way, I think, the trailer for this is in our agenda, so now I will definitely try to rip it and put it in the episode.
You're welcome.
Excellent. And yeah, so of course they're trying to shoehorn all these other dark universe characters in. So you've got Jekyll and Hyde, and there's also a vampire skull in a shot here and there, and it's just it's so lame and over the top. It's like look, it's all one universe. Look, we've got it all together. Look, there's a vampire skull. Isn't it cool? You're just like, for goodness sake. And you know me, I always like to try and look for the silver lining in a film, and I like to give things the benefit of the doubt. Like even the new Transformers movie, right? Even though we all know that's going to be dreadful, I'll go and see it and hope that it's good.
Doesn't he have Anthony Hopkins in it?
I know, I don't know why.
Because he likes money?
Money! Who doesn't like money?
Yeah, apparently Russell Crowe really likes money, because that's the only reason I can think that he's done this.
And, Paul McCartney likes some money too.
Yeah, he definitely does. So Sophia Boutella, who people may remember from Star Trek Beyond, and she was also in Kingsman.
She was so good in Kingsman.
She was so good. She's awesome, actually, and she's good in this. Like, she really gives it her all, and she has a very theatrical physicality to the role, and she does great. She's one of the high points of the film, and she's quite scary at times, and yeah, she really commits to the role, and she's very good. And some of the action scenes are quite cool, and there's some good effects and a few good scares, but overall it was just very meh, very kind of like, yeah, okay, I get it, you're trying to set up this universe of the monsters, fine, but there was no fun here. Like, it wasn't fun to watch. It was kind of like, it took itself very seriously, and you were sort of thinking, no, I just want to go and watch the Brendan Fraser one now, because that was really fun and cool and still the Mummy, and it was exciting. Whereas this is kind of just Tom Cruise running around being a bit of an arse. And, no, it's kind of like, at times, it's almost like it doesn't know what it wants to be. It's like, does it just want to be like a Tom Cruise action movie, or does it want to be a Mummy film? And so it seems like it's at war with itself a lot in terms of what it's actually meant to be.
Usually that's a symptom of the studio not being sure what it wants it to be.
Yeah, I think they're kind of like, I think, to be fair, there's probably some nervousness and insecurity about how well it was going to perform, which is probably totally fair, because I don't think it did that well in America. And so they've tried to make it more of a Tom Cruise action movie type thing, which of course doesn't work. That's not what a Mummy film is. So really, it's a disappointment.
Yeah,
it doesn't fill me with much hope for the rest of this Dark Universe series, and they might even strip it back now and not do, because I think there's like 10 more movies planned in this series or something. It's crazy, and I think they might end up stripping it back a little bit now, because I don't think this is done quite as well as they had hoped.
Don't you think it's becoming a little bit ridiculous? We have Avatar movies all up until 2030 or something crazy like that, and then we have 10 movies in this universe, and then
it's Marvel's fault.
Yeah, I mean, I think Marvel somehow managed to take the ridiculousness and actually make some sense out of it with all their planning.
Yeah.
But after they do everything that they planned, what they're gonna do afterwards, I don't know, and I'm actually worried about this, because we are coming to the end of this whole pre-planned Marvel saga with current Avengers and current characters, and they unfortunately they're gonna age at that point and won't be able to perform stunts or look as their characters or whatever. Anyway,
it's okay. That's when they reboot phase 1.
We'll start all over again. Oh god.
It's the state of our entertainment currently where franchises after franchises and everything is planned like 10 years in advance.
It's because they're sort of guaranteed to make money. People know that if you set a franchise going, if the first, like with Guardians of the Galaxy, right? That first one was a little bit of a gamble. They didn't really know how it was going to perform. Obviously, it did really, really well.
Didn't they greenlit basically Guardians of the Galaxy 2 even before Guardians of the Galaxy 1 came out or something like that? Or was it the other movie?
I think it was based on initial screenings, and when they knew they had something good, they were like, yeah, okay, we feel more confident now, and that's when they kind of greenlit 2 and 3. But this is the thing with the Mummy, is it's just at war with itself the whole time, and I really wanted to like it because I love monster movies and anything like this. Like, I love the Brendan Fraser ones because they're just so cool and fun and exciting, but this is just not that, and it's just kind of a bit dour and miserable, and it's a shame because it does have some good bits, like the Mummy herself, she's really good, and some of the other sort of effects and stuff are pretty cool, but overall it's a disappointment.
I will be honest, I have a list of actors whose movies I will try to avoid just because I don't like them, and Tom Cruise is on that list.
Yeah, I must admit he's not my favourite. Like, he's good in a lot of things. Like, he was brilliant in stuff like Magnolia. If he's got a good director, he can do really good stuff, but I think I just find him as a person so distasteful, I guess, and kind of just a bit smarmy and irritating, and just I find it hard to separate Tom Cruise, the movie star, from whatever character he's playing.
Yeah.
Well, guys, he's not going to be jumping up and down on a chair because of ye.
No, definitely not. I'm sorry, little Tom Cruise. Forgive me. I know what it's like to be small.
Aww. It's my favorite line of Craig Ferguson's show when he was still doing late night show on America. Craig Ferguson, one of the late hosts, whatever. And he was always asking his guests if they want a little stool when they sat down in his chair, and they were like, "Oh, why'd you have a stool?" They're like, "Well, just in case Tom Cruise shows up."
Oh, it is. Oh, and also another thing that's embarrassing, really, in this film is that obviously there's a female love interest, of course.
Yeah, is she hot blonde?
Yeah, she's a hot blonde, and she must be half his age.
Hollywood.
And she's meant to be, I know, she's meant to be like this super clever, intelligent archaeologist, and some of the drivel that comes out of this woman's mouth is just unbelievable. She's just an idiot. And yeah, she's meant to have had like a one-night stand with Tom Cruise's character and all of this stuff, and it's just gross. Like, she is half his age, I'm sure, and it's just a bit yeah, Hollywood needs to sort that out, really, and actually cast some appropriately aged love interests, maybe one day,
potentially.
Considering how many like Hollywood actresses that, you know, because they're actresses and they have to look after themselves. They look so freaking hot. There's so many hot Hollywood actresses in their 40s and 50s. Just cast one of them, for goodness sake.
Like, I just looked, and the actress in this film, the character's called Jenny. She's 32, right? She's younger than me. Tom Cruise is like 54.
Yeah.
That's 22 years. That's just nuts. Right? And there's plenty of beautiful, amazing, talented actresses in their 40s and 50s who could have done that role, and who could have actually played the role and made it seem like they knew what the hell they were talking about. Whereas this woman just seems like she's just there for window dressing, if I'm totally honest. And it's just, it's just Hollywood nonsense yet again, and that just, gross.
Yay!
So don't bother with The Mummy, really. Just watch the Brendan Fraser one again.
Yeah, I might do that. I miss those movies.
Yeah.
I love them so
They're so good.
much.
They're so good.
Okay, well, we've come to the end of episode 93, so it's time to do some shout-outs. So I'm going to do them very quickly because we don't have a lot of shout-outs. Big thank yous to Stingo, Stealthy Joe, and actually special thanks to Stealthy Joe and to Oryx because I saw them both at Tabletop Tuesday. And
Yay.
on Twitter, thank you to Will Drive at Will Drive 93 and to Bleezy at Bleezy Boy, who agrees with me on our love of love, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but he is a special child, is Bleezy.
He is. But
He is.
but he agrees with
Love
me.
you,
Don't take
Bleezy.
that away from me.
I know.
By the way, guys, last week we released a bit of the half episode. I did the interview with the two designers of a board game called 12 Realms Dungeon Land. So I sat down with them and had a chat, and their game is on Kickstarter now. This episode is 92.5 because that's what we do when we have half episodes. And yeah, give it a listen. I would very much appreciate if, you know, people listen to it and let me know if the kind of interviews like that is something that I would like to hear more, because I absolutely enjoy chatting to them, and I love chatting to board game designers about their games. And I wish we covered board games a lot more than we do, but it's a bit harder to talk about board games on air because mechanics, explanations, it's kind of thing you need to visualize more than to talk about it, so it's tough. But I do want to cover board games more because I love them, really. So yeah, please give that episode a try. Do keep in mind that, you know, people that we interview, they might not have the audio set up that we do, so their audio is not up to our standards. You know, you can still listen to it, it'll still be fairly clear and you can understand what they're saying, but, you know, it won't be like you're hearing us. Yeah, so now that we said thank you to everyone, it's time to remind us that Tabletop Tuesday, in fact, happens on a Tuesday, and it is about tabletop. And that is our board gaming night at Loading Bar in London and Dalston, and we are having a couple of weeks of board games that have video game themes. And I think there is a special additional prize draw going on for for you to attend the event, and your name goes into a separate prize draw, and there'll be a bag of video gaming goodies that will include t-shirts, and I actually don't know what else, but I do know it includes t-shirts, and I do know that it's a bag of goodies, so I guess that is good. But anyway, our feature game for the next day is Guards of Atlantis. It's a tabletop MOBA. It looks fantastic. It's one of those games that, you know, has amazing minis and really nice artwork and is really kind of very well thought out, and I do like the concept of a tabletop MOBA. Anyway, we saw it during UK Games Expo, and we kind of had a little demo with the developers there, and it looks really great. So come and play that, and you might win Guardians of Atlantis by the end of the night. Okay, now, if you would like to chat with us, you can do so on the forums at BigRedBarel.com. You can do so on Facebook, BigRedBarel.com/BigRedBarel. There is a BigRedBarel Gamer Nights group. There'll be a link to that in the description below. You can join and play some games with us. You can talk to us on Twitter at BigRedBarel using the hashtag Geek Speak. You can also speak to us directly. I'm at DustyTulip_.
I'm at Pixel Ritual.
And I'm at Diarmuid_S.
You can also listen to us on YouTube and leave us a comment on YouTube, and we will also read it out on the show. That's right. And as always, we would absolutely love you if you'd leave us a review on iTunes. That is very, very special for us. No matter how many stars you give us, we'll read out your comment because we like the feedback. And actually, in general, if you have feedback on us and you want to tweet it at us or write it on the forums, that is all good. And having said that, also, if you guys want to drop on the forums and tell us your E3 highlights and your favorite games and your favorite show, that would also be awesome, and I will read them out on the next show if you do write them. Okay, what have I forgotten?
I think that's it.
I think you have it.
Okay, so for episode 93 of BigRedBarel Geek Speak, I have been Butts.
I've been Joe.
I've been Diarmuid.
And we bid you goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Butts.
You and your ears are quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. Why not roll on over to BigRedBarel.com for more podcasts, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarel.com.